The kingdom celebrated their future king, but he was already dead. History says he vanished, but the truth is darker. What could a prince possibly do to deserve a death sentence in secret? The heir in question was Prince Alaric, eldest son of the Iron Crown. He was young, just 22, with a charm that could sway nobles and commoners alike. People whispered about his charisma, his intelligence, even his daring ideas for reform. To the court, he seemed destined to rule, and yet destiny has a cruel way of twisting. The Iron Crown ruled over a land of spires and forests, a kingdom always teetering between prosperity and civil unrest. Factions jostled for influence. Advisors schemed. Foreign envoys prowled the halls like predators, sniffing for weakness. And in the middle of it all was Alaric, bold, outspoken, beloved, maybe too beloved. At first, nothing seemed out of place. The prince attended banquets, led military drills, and smiled at the crowds that lined the streets. But then whispers began. Small at first, a nurse murmuring about Alaric's sudden fevers, a guard noting that his usual companions were replaced overnight, a canceled procession with no explanation, short sentences, sudden changes. Everything felt off. Some said he had fallen ill. Others claimed he was under strict orders, confined for his own safety. But the truth was far worse. In the shadows of the palace, a storm brewed. Power was fragile, and fear was currency. The king, Alaric's father, had grown paranoid. Advisors who once smiled at the prince now looked at him with veiled hostility. There were rumors that foreign diplomats had begun questioning Alaric's loyalty. Even his closest allies started disappearing. Quietly, and this is where the story takes a darker turn. Alaric had enemies who saw him as a threat. A younger brother, impatient and ambitious. A counselor who feared the prince's reforms. A high priest who whispered that Alaric's vision defied divine will. They realized one terrifying fact. To remove him publicly would be dangerous. The people loved him too much. Any accusation could spark rebellion, so they acted in secret. One night, under a moonless sky, Alaric was summoned to a secluded chamber. Only the closest conspirators were present. They had forged documents, a confession he never wrote, words that would justify his death, protect the throne, and erase any doubt. The prince entered, unaware that the crown he was meant to inherit would become his shroud. Inside, the atmosphere was suffocating. Candles flickered. Guards stood silent. The weight of betrayal pressed down on him. He realized too late that trust had been shattered. Faces he thought loyal were masked of ambition and fear. And as the chamber door closed, the world outside continued as if nothing had changed. The execution was swift, methodical, and silent. No clashing swords. No cries that would echo in the streets. Only the cold efficiency of power, the crushing certainty that the throne must be preserved at any cost. Alaric's last moments were not filled with rage, but with a haunting understanding. History would remember him as absent, not murdered. What happened next was buried for centuries. The cover-up was meticulous. The official story declared that the prince had succumbed to an illness, a sudden fever that struck with fatal speed. Records were altered. Loyalists sworn to silence disappeared, some quietly, some under mysterious circumstances. The succession was rushed. Alaric's younger brother was crowned, smiling before the people who mourned a prince they would never see again. But whispers never truly die. Servants spoke in corners. Courtiers passed letters in code. Rumors of a secret chamber, of a hidden death, lingered like shadows. The people sensed the absence, even if they didn't know its origin. And yet, the kingdom carried on, pretending that nothing had changed. Trade continued. Armies marched. Feasts were held. But the pulse of the nation felt different. Something vital had been stolen. Centuries later, historians began to piece together the fragments. Old letters, marginal notes in dusty tomes, the faint trace of a confession that never should have existed. They questioned the official accounts. They noticed the inconsistencies. And slowly, the truth emerged, not entirely, but enough to shake the foundations of what was believed. Alaric's death left a void, a throne inherited by someone untested, factions more ruthless than ever, policies that lacked vision. The kingdom survived, but the spirit of its people felt dimmed. The future that might have been brilliant and bold under Alaric's guidance vanished along with him. They didn't just execute an heir, they executed the future. And perhaps the most chilling part is this. In the halls where power whispers and shadows linger, the story still waits. A warning etched in secrecy. A reminder that love for a crown can outweigh love for life. The prince who should have ruled is gone, but his memory haunts every corridor, every echo, every crown that sits heavier than it should. And the question remains, haunting and unresolved. If the future could be stolen so silently, how much of our history is not history at all, but a carefully curated lie?